Welcome one and all to the Mudai Manga Book Club podcast. This is episode 15. He's all skin and bones. Wait, just bones? That's probably fine. My name is Louie, and I will proclaim the awesomeness of the supreme beings. I'm joined with my co-host, Tom.
I wonder how many people listening will get that. Well, I wonder how many people are listening. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the show.
So for anyone who hasn't listened before, we do two topics every week. First is we're just going to talk about things we've been listening to, reading, checking on, cool stuff that we've been looking at for the past week. Mm-hmm. And then for our second topic this week, we're going to talk about Overlord Volume 1 of the light novel and actually the manga. They're the same.
Hooray.
So, Tom.
Yes.
What have you been up to?
So I've been a little bit busy again this week, so I haven't gotten to quite as much. So I've only finished 11 series and 109. No, I'm joking. I've only been reading a little bit. We can cover through those pretty quickly. So the first and probably the biggest thing I've been reading is I've been continuing going through Mushishi after doing it for our episode a couple weeks ago. I have the whole series. I just never sat down and finished it. And so I was like, I might as well just pick up and continue reading along. Again, it's a series of a bunch of short stories. So, like, what happened in book 4? So I've read books 4, 5, and 6 since last week. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what happened in those books? Nothing, everything, lots of things, not really much. But I think I'm finally caught up to where I read in the past. I don't remember if I read book 6 or not before. I know I read 4 and 5. 4 has my favorite story in the series, which I'm not going to go into it in that much detail, but for anyone who's read it, it is the story of the silkworms and the message cocoons. It would take too long to explain it, but it's really good. It's, I think, the first story in book 4, and I feel like that's been happening with the series. The first 2-3 books have been like, there's 5 stories, and of the 5, I really like 3 of them. I like one of them, and one of them is kind of okay.
Okay.
And now it's more like, there's one I really like, 2 I like, and 2 are okay. It's like, it's starting to fade. There's always at least one that I really, really good. And I think it'd be different for more people, but there feels like not all of them are as good as the first few were, but I don't really know why. And every book, there's always been one that's been exceptional.
And it's still doing, each story is one-off chapters?
Yep, there's been a few things that come back, like little hints. The Koki, the River of Life, shows up in 2 more chapters so far already, but no other characters have really come back, except for the doctor from who he sells things for. He comes back in book 4, I believe. Other than that, it's always new characters, new place, new things going on. But they're all still really good.
Okay.
Book 5 and 6 had a couple of really interesting stories. There's one about someone who... There is one that I remember, and what ultimately ends up being the solution to it, which is a weird way to talk about it, is when you leave your homeland, where it's infested with a lot of certain types of mushi, the food and the soil that's around you outside of where you grew up, because of the mushi that were in that area, will make it so that you don't live as well. And it's a big story about going home, to a place that you didn't super like. And it's about someone trying to take care of a child that from another one of his family members that died because he went off to become successful at something, does that, and then comes back. But like the child is like 5 or 6 year old, still just eats by like grabbing food and slamming into his mouth with his hand and just mashing it all over his face. He's like 6, 7 years old, and he can't use utensils. He can't clean his own hands. But part of that story is, because of where it's from, it's probably the most, in terms of actual advice for autism and developmental disorders and things, it's probably the worst advice of like, yeah, it's all your fault, person who left your hometown. You're a terrible dad. You've ruined everything, and this child's life is terrible because of you. But it's an interesting story, but I think the anime does a much better job of it. I think that's the first one where one of the really good stories, because I've seen up to there in the anime as well, and it's like that one, the anime, where they just have more time to sort of expand on it and show things, it just comes out a lot better.
Okay.
And then in the 6th one, there's a really good one about these mushi that will stick to people and leech off their body heat so that it will start snowing around them wherever they go.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's just this guy who will walk around in the middle of the snowstorm, like without a coat on, and he's fine. And everyone's like, "Stop it! You're gonna die." And he's like, "I'm fine. If I get near anything warm, it hurts." Because it's Mushishi, there's a huge tragic story to it all that goes along with it. And there's more tragedy, I think, in these books than there were in some of the earlier volumes. But even more of the tragedies are a bad thing has already happened. Mm-hmm. And this is them picking up the pieces and moving forward.
Okay. Yep.
Which kind of feels a little bit different from the beginning, where sometimes the tragedy is what happens at the end of the story. Still really good. I'm super excited. There's 4 more books to go, 7 through 10, so I'm probably going to keep working on that.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I forget how many there were.
There are 10.
Okay.
First 7 were printed in English as well. 8, 9, and 10 were only printed digitally as a single omnibus. I have them all digitally. I have some of them physically buried somewhere in a box because I read them when they were first coming out in print. But the entire series is in English, so it is available.
Okay.
After that, I also read Volume 2 of I Picked Up This World Strategy Guide. This was in a really early episode of ours. This series has just started coming out in English, where basically an NPC character in a JRPG finds the strategy guide for the world that they are in.
Oh, right, yes.
That one ended with she is in the forest right at the point where the person who's going to be the hero of the story shows up and begins the whole journey. Mm-hmm. And so that's where book 2 starts up, as like, oh, it's that guy. Oh, I know who you are. Oh, I should not be here. I should not be involved in this. I don't want to be part of this. And there's a lot of interesting things where she's trying to be helpful. The girl who she works at an item shop, she went to go get these certain berries to make a potion to heal someone. So she's trying to be helpful to this hero person, but she desperately does not want to get involved. But she also knows way too much about random things because the hero is actually hated by the people of his village because of a huge misunderstanding. Mm-hmm. And some thugs are like questioning her about it. And she's just like, oh, well, actually, if you read this thing that's scrawled on the floor in the basement of the village leader's house, you would hear this, this, and this. You would know all this. And it's like, how do you know that?
I just know things.
I think what's probably going to be the plot of this is everything seems to continue happening the way it was going to happen, but the details are changed. So in the original game, the hero saves the village from monsters, but the villagers still hate him because they're scared of him. Mm-hmm. But because she was interacting with them and explaining what was going on, and because she had given him a healing potion that let him not have to use his super ability that really terrified everyone, he was able to beat the monster but not scare them. So like they all ask for his forgiveness, and he's like, that's fine, but I'm still leaving and going on a journey. When before they basically forced him onto the journey. And there's a lot of steps like that for like the plot.
Yep.
But it's funny, it's silly. It is full color, which is
that's
really interesting to see.
Yeah.
But the book is also shorter. It's only about 140, 150 pages.
Okay.
So it's not as long per book, but it is a full color manga, which is kind of an interesting thing to see. The art's really nice, continues to be really good. There's been a few small battles. There's some interesting characters that are showing up and are kind of weird. And there's some nice humor to it, too. It really hasn't been anything unique yet, but it's been fun.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's kind of like, yeah, you're like, that seems like an interesting enough concept. Like, check it out. It's worth checking out, but it's not anything that I would say is, oh, you absolutely have to try this yet. Hasn't done anything quite enough to do that.
Okay.
Eden 031 came out on a day or two ago.
Yep.
So I sat down and finished that. And I will tell you absolutely nothing because anything I say is spoilers.
Okay.
But the thing with the stuff is happening. And so then they learned about the thing that happened, which led to the stuff, which led to the people who are important because of this stuff doing the thing with the stuff. And now that other people know about the things that the stuff did with the thing stuff.
You completely ruined it.
And that was volume 31.
You've ruined it completely.
Yeah, it's very much clearly in the end game.
Okay, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff getting revealed.
2 books left? I think it goes to 33.
Yeah, it goes up to 33, so there's 2 more books coming out. If you've gotten this far in the series, it continues to just be as good as it has been. It's worth reading if you've gotten this far. I am more happy with it than I was when I did the huge binge because of some stuff that I can't really talk about, where I didn't think it was bad, but I was like, I don't know if I like this as much. But this one has put stuff together where it's like, okay, now I'm starting to really enjoy this again. Okay. Where there's some interesting stuff to think about and mull over. And more of what everything is that's going on. Mm-hmm. And more of Mother and Shiki and Ziggy and Eden Zero and all of the parts of it. There's some really interesting stuff in that where it's like, okay, now I kind of want to know I really want to find out what's going on by the end. It's clearly they're about to tell me, but they're going to tell me very slowly. And it's like, okay, yes, but I want to know. And so it's really good. Nice. Not as many fights. The few that are in there are pretty short, but they're still good. And you get to see the big bad's face. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
You haven't read any.
I haven't read it. I've read to 30. I haven't read 31 yet.
Yeah, if I literally say anything, it's spoilers. And
okay, that's fine.
Just go get it and read it. You'll enjoy it. Yes. Okay. If you've enjoyed everything up to this point, you'll continue to enjoy it. And then finally, I finally broke down and bought Raincode Plus, Master Detective Archives, Raincode Plus on the computer, and I finished the tutorial case and the first case.
Yep. So what'd you think?
It's Danganronpa.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Like, I played Danganronpa when it came out, and it's one of my favorite games.
You play all 3?
I played all 3.
Okay.
I didn't finish Ultimate Despair Girls. I didn't finish all the side games. I didn't read all the novels and the extra animes and all that, but I know a good bit about it. Mechanically, it is Danganronpa. The gameplay is basically Danganronpa, but the story is that style without being the same thing. It is its own unique world, and it has its own way to continue forcing you into murder mysteries, as we've talked about. Yep. You're a detective in a city. It is stylized out the wazoo. And it very much feels like the level of ridiculousness that Danganronpa V3 was at. And they've just continued going more crazy from there. So I feel like if you hadn't played any of them, I'd still start with Danganronpa 1. Because it's more grounded. For all the insanity in that game, it's much more of a like, okay, this feels like I can sort of understand what's happening. And Raincode is just like, we're just starting off absolutely batshit crazy.
Yeah, it turns things up fast.
It turns things up real fast. Yeah. I like the idea, and I've enjoyed it so far, and I like the characters. I have a few small things with it, but but it's less, I don't like this part of the story. I don't like this character. It's not even that. It's like, I don't like this theme because I feel like it made more sense in Danganronpa and other things. And now it just feels kind of weird that they're forcing this to be the way the world works. But
you mean the city or the detective part?
All right, I'll just say it. I'm going to hold my judgment.
Okay.
But what happens after you finish the mystery labyrinth, the thing that must happen when you reveal the truth.
Yes.
In Danganronpa, that made sense because you had no control of it. Now where it's like, this just has to happen just because. It's like, I need to see where this goes. Maybe at the end
there's a reason.
Or they actually play with it more, or there's pushback on it, but just, no, this is just what happens, and this is fine. And it's not even like, this is what happens, like, okay, that's what happens, but this is fine, and you should be okay with this, kind of irks me. Although the main character is kind of like, I really don't want to do this, though. I really don't want this to be what happens.
Yeah.
So.
And he keeps pushing back, so, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I don't like the theme that this story seems like it's trying to push, but I haven't finished enough of it to actually know if that's really where it's going to go. And there's enough pushback, and it's like, this might not actually be it. It just might be this is how it's happening. But very good. If you like Danganronpa, this is basically just that game again, only even more stylized than V3, even more ridiculous than Super Danganronpa 2. and the characters are interesting and unique.
Yep.
I get your complaint that you had once of you kind of want to be able to spend time with all of them.
Right.
But we'll see. It definitely feels like it's building up to something, and I'm definitely going to keep playing it. It's really good.
Yep. I haven't finished it yet, so I don't have answers to your questions.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And even if you did, I wouldn't want them. I'm probably going to finish this because this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's a fun game. I think the next case number 2, I think has been, because I've done the tutorial one, obviously,
yeah,
and the first 3. I think the second one was the most interesting of those.
All I know is it's something about a school.
Yes.
I haven't even gotten to the case yet, but I know that.
Yeah. Ah, good. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Like, I am, like I always do, for all the time I've spent saying, like, well, I'm not sure about this. I'm not, like, because that gives me something to talk about. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
If you like Danganronpa, you will love this. If you don't, but you like mystery games, this is a really good mystery game. I guess the only other thing I would say, and I've only beaten the tutorial case in case 1, it kind of feels easy. But then weirdly hard in like 1 or 2 choices where it's like, how am I supposed to know this? But Danganronpa did that too.
Yeah.
And I feel like this one is still better than that. So I guess I can't complain too much. And it's still like case 0, case 1. So
right.
I can't complain too much.
Yeah, because even in Danganronpa, there's no wrong answer. You just took too many tries to get the right answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were some times where it's like, you know what the actual answer is, but you can't use that right now. You've got to figure out this one random little piece that has nothing to do with anything to prove that you can then talk about the next one.
Yep.
This one is done a lot better at like signposting, okay, what am I trying to solve here?
Right. Yes.
So I think it's been better, but it also feels easier. But again, case 0, case 1.
Yep.
We'll see.
Yeah.
And even still, like, they've been good stories.
Right. I think that's what they come down to. It's more, it's like, yeah, you can easily just kind of mash your way through it. It's like, okay, yeah, just keep playing until I get the right answer.
Oh, no, like, I didn't try that hard, and I still double S ranked case 1. It's not like, oh, I can mash my way through. Like, I don't care about getting the rating, but even not trying, I got double S rank.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, oh, maybe this was too easy. Again, maybe it's I've played too much of
or that
Umineko, and it's like, yeah, why haven't I had to think about the physical way that people move around a house with crazy rules going on? Yeah.
Yeah. There's...
God.
Yeah.
Umineko, the fact that it actually, any part of it ever makes sense is so ridiculous. I gotta go finish that, but it's like, yeah, I'm in game 7 of 8. We're about to find out who the murderer is. And the only 2 things I know is there's another game after it that's like 250,000 words. And at the end of it, there are still major mysteries that are just left unanswered. And it's like, yeah, I'm learning who the murderer is in this game.
No.
It's like, yes, and then there's another game after that.
And there's more murderers.
And then you still don't really know what's going on. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this is going to get weird.
Those games are long.
They're very, very long, but they're really, really good.
Oh, I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think it's fantastic.
Cool.
How about you? What have you been up to? What have you been doing?
Okay, this week, apparently, looking at my list, it's a week of firsts. So I read the first volume of I'm the Evil Lord of an Intergalactic Empire. So I read the manga, volume 1. It's interesting. It's an isekai. I don't know. Have you read this?
I have not. I have looked at it.
Okay.
I've seen it around. I'm like, this sounds stupid but funny. And
it's interesting because it starts off with a middle-aged man, has a kid, great life supposedly, and then it turns out his life is being manipulated by kind of not a Shinigami, but like some kind of deity who just feeds on people's misery. So at a certain point, he just messes with his life to make him have a horrible experience. And then right as he's about to die, he says, pick a new world. And he reveals all the things that are wrong with his life. He thinks his wife left him for some reason, and his boss fired him for a reason. And it turns out that all those reasons that he thought they were wrong, that everyone was just lying to him. So he just curses the world right as he's about to die, and the being is like, oh, great, I can feed on this misery, and I'm going to send you to another world to make up for it. Like, he's not telling him he's feeding off this. He's like, I can give you a better life somewhere else.
Yeah.
So he says, the guy doesn't care, and he just picks ones at random, and he sends them there. It's like, yes, because then when you go there, I'm going to make your life even more miserable and feed on that. And then some stuff goes on, and the guy who died, the main character, he's like, I was trying to be such a good person in this life, and I'm going to be such an awful person in the next one. So he gets transported to this place where there's magic and technology and things are really advanced, and he becomes like the son of a count, and they oversee a whole planet, and it's about him growing up. His parents run off, it's like, yeah, you're in charge of this planet, goodbye, sucker kid. I'm in charge of a planet? I'm 6. And the parents are like, yeah, just keep sending us our money and then we'll leave you alone. So they just kind of leave him, and it turns out the planet is in shambles because they've just been not doing anything about running the planet, and it's like, just dump it all on the kid. And the butler's like, these people are idiots, but I have to take care of him. Like, give him on his 6th birthday, here, you now own the planet, and we're going to give you this robot doll, because there was a big AI uprising years ago, and now AI is very, like, controlled. So they give him an AI doll, like babysitter / tutor / companion person.
Okay.
And then he still remembers everything from when he was alive on Earth. So he's like, I'm going to try to be evil and all these things, but he's like, but this planet is horribly run and we have no money. Everyone's broke. So I can't do anything. Because there's a whole galactic empire out there, and this is just some kind of backwoods planet that no one cares about. It's like, yeah, we have nothing. So he's like, all right, we got to turn this planet around. And apparently in this universe, humans live for a lot longer, so things kind of... There's people that have lived to 600 years old, and it's like, okay, he's 6, and by the time he's 20, he's like a teenager. So some stuff goes on. He kind of starts to learn things about the universe and the world, and they're trying to make a better planet so then they can raise money to be able to do bad things. But his AI tutor, he keeps leaning on her for advice. And the butler's like, you really shouldn't be doing that. It's like, no, she's in charge. Because the way they do schooling in this one, where they put you in like a tank, and it kind of feeds all the information into your brain. So he's like, well, I'm in there, she's in charge. And then they keep going back and forth, and he keeps saying, okay, he checks with his AI, and keeps checking with the AI on what to do. And it's like, okay, well, the evil guy, the deity, is trying to figure out how to mess with him. And he's like, good. He's kind of doing what I want. And he's like manipulating him somehow. And then he gets another tutor to teach him how to sword fight, and some stuff happens. And years go by. I think 20 years go by from when he starts to where it is. And it's interesting. The world building is cool. Mm-hmm. He is very much not an evil person, though. He's very much straightforward. Hey, I'm going to do this. He's not trying to be evil, at least in this first volume.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, there's no evilness. And also, it feels, because of the way like the light novel and the manga work, is like it ends on kind of like, and to be continued. It very much is like, this is partway through a story. Okay, I kind of want to see what happens next. It's interesting because it is very much space. There's giant mechs by the end that he's learning to pilot, and it's very future world governing kind of focus.
Yeah.
The evil stuff hasn't even come anywhere close to being a thing yet. Everyone on the planet loves him now because he's turned the planet around, and everyone's actually earning money. So no one thinks he's evil. He keeps saying he wants to be evil, but it's like, yeah, that's not a thing. So it's kind of, see how it goes. It's interesting. I'll probably pick up the next one just to check it out.
Okay.
But I kind of want to understand where it's going from here.
Yeah.
Which kind of feeds into the next one. So I read An Archdemon's Dilemma, How to Love Your Elf Bride Volume 1 for the manga.
Never heard of it.
No, never heard of it.
No idea.
So we talked about this a lot already. So
yes, last episode.
I won't spend too much time on it. So this one is good. The art's good. It's one of those, again, where it stops right as the girl says, I'm going to go and hunt down the main character.
Oh, like after they've been separated?
Yeah, so right as they say...
okay.
What's the main character's name?
Zagan.
Yeah, so right as the priest tells the sword user Zagan is the one that's killing everyone, that's when the manga ends.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's like, there's more to this story. I know there is.
Yeah.
But it stops there.
This is definitely one where I could see a manga would be like very annoying in the beginning because the first book is like one continuous story and there's no way they can cover it all in one book of manga.
Yeah.
But
so it's good. There's definitely play the cuteness or like awkwardness between the two characters really well.
yes.
The art's really good. Same thing with the last one, the Overlord. The art's really good, but it is feeling like this is a part one. You need part two to finally finish the actual story.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
Okay.
So it's good. It's a good adaptation. And then the other one I read is I Want a Gal Gamer to Praise Me. So I didn't know this when I bought it. So it actually started as a Twitter comic. So when you're reading it, every chapter is 4 pages-ish. 4 or 5 pages. That's it.
Okay.
What this story is about is it's about you learn that he's a shut-in for the most part. He wants to be a professional gamer, but he's not very good. So he hires a professional gamer to come over and tutor him.
Yeah.
And the girl you see on the front cover is the professional gamer who comes over to tutor him. And
of course.
It's the awkwardness of him being super nervous and also super terrible. And her being kind of, not, the word is more, she gets in his personal space a lot, is how I would explain it. And she's kind of oblivious to that kind of thing, but she's really good at teaching him how to play. And she's really good at gaming because she's a professional gamer. And it's kind of also talks about what she deals with by being a female professional gamer. Mm. And it turns out that they actually go to the same high school.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. She's a year older than him, but he hasn't gone to school in a long time, so she tries to convince him to come back to school. And if nothing else, they can at least talk about gaming, because her problem is that she goes to school, but no one she knows actually likes games. So she actually found someone she can actually talk to about this stuff, whereas she plays online and things like that. So it's kind of like, okay, come to school, talk about it. We'll talk about games, play games, things like that, and you can actually go back to school. And then it turns out that she wants to create a gaming club, and that's kind of where the first book ends. Like, hey, why don't we start a gaming club with me? It will give you another reason to come back to school. And he's like, all right, sure.
Okay.
So it's kind of like what's the bully one?
Nagatoro.
Yes.
Don't toy with me, Miss Nagatoro.
That one. You see her afterthoughts when she does something. It's like, she's kind of awkward about it after. Same idea for this one. It's like, you can see after some of the chapters, it's kind of her thinking, did he really say that? Did I say that? Kind of thing. So there's that going on where she seems oblivious at the time, but she's thinking about it later. And then he does the same thing. Did that just happen? Am I thinking this? Or what's going on here? It's good. It's really interesting how it was. Every chapter is like just a couple pages. I wasn't expecting that when I went into it. It's like, okay. And the chapter's over. This is like 5 pages. And then it's like another 5 pages. Okay, so it makes more sense now. So it was picked up. It was a Twitter serialization to begin with, and then it was picked up by an actual publisher, and there are now 5 volumes in Japanese, and the 4th one just came out in English. So it's interesting. It's fun. It's very romantic comedy kind of thing. The art's pretty good, but yeah. And then I've read Overlord Volume 1 again, so we'll talk about that later. And then I think that's it for me.
Nice.
So that was my week. And that was your week.
That's a solid week.
Yeah. Alright, so for our big review this week, we're going to do Overlord Volume 1 of the light novel, which is actually the manga Volume 1, which doesn't usually happen, and actually is the first 4 episodes of the anime. So for anyone who doesn't know, the author is Kugane Maruyama. Cover art is by Sobin. The manga is drawn by Hugen Miyama. And if anyone reads the audiobook, it's done by Chris Guerrero. It's really good. That's how I typically read/listen to these, is the audiobook. There are 16 volumes so far, potential for more. There hasn't been a new one in a couple years now, and the first volume was released back in 2012.
Oh, wow.
This actually started as a web novel, then went over and got published for the first volume and has been around for a long time now. Some of the volumes are actually part 1s and part 2s. Like there's stories that were too long to go in the typical light novel size. So the first number of volumes are just single one stories, and then as you get to the higher numbers into the teens, they're actually a number of part 1, part 2s. So for anyone that doesn't know what that Overlord even is, it is a book series about someone who was isekai to another world. The trick is he was isekai'd from his VR game. So the setting is it's
very original.
Yes, it's 2138 in Tokyo. The main character's name's
Satoru Suzuki.
He is playing a game called Yggdrasil, which is a full dive VR MMORPG where you go in, you make characters, you explore worlds, you make guilds, you fight monsters, things like that. Your typical super high fantasy kind of game.
Yep.
The main character, he is, I don't know if they give his exact age, but he is a office worker, kind of works in sales. He's talked about himself as not a very good salesperson, so he's just kind of a drone in the office society. But he spends pretty much the majority of his money in this game, because that's pretty much his life. Because the outside world is not great by 2138 when the settings takes place. So there's this game, Yggdrasil, super fantasy, a lot of Norse theming, which obviously with a name like Yggdrasil, things like that. But it takes place 12 years after the game has started, because this was like the biggest game in the world at the time.
Yep.
And now it's 12 years later. It is now, like a lot of games, on its trailing edge of, okay, it's not as popular anymore. And the developers have decided, hey, we're going to shut it down. It's not as popular as it used to be, so we're going to turn it off and say goodbye. In this game, Satoru made a guild with a bunch of friends, 41 friends by the end, where they made this guild called Ainz Ooal Gown. It was a guild for people who had working lives. That was one of the requirements. You had to be a working professional. So it wasn't just people who just play games for fun. You have to be here. You have to have a life where you work. So then they could all kind of talk about that as well, because there was a lot of camaraderie between them. Mm-hmm. And that is where they created this guild. Satoru was the guild master, but he was very much like, okay, we're all in this together. We're all going to do these things. And his character is called Momonga. Mm-hmm. And by the time this gets to the end of the game, it's Momonga is pretty much sitting there by himself as the guild master. Is like, I've been holding this guild together for last few years. People have disappeared. People have said, I'm quitting. I don't have time. Work's taking all my time. Or there are all kinds of issues. They've kind of dropped away and things like that.
Yeah.
And so he's there by himself. And then one last character signs in. His name is called Hero. He's actually a giant slime. So one of the other things about the guild was that you had to play a character who was not your typical humanoid. He's like, you have to be a grotesque, is what they call them. Mm-hmm. Like a monster kind of character. So you had to be a working professional and a monster. Those were one of the main requirements. And Momonga is called an Overlord, thus the title, which is, think of a Elder Lich kind of skeleton super wizard, is the short answer. That's the kind of character he played. So you got Hero and Momonga, the only two that actually signed in when the servers are minutes away from being shut down, just to say one final farewell. Because Momonga sent out a message to everyone, hey, servers are shutting down, let's all get together and just say goodbye. And Hero is the only one that actually showed up. So they reminisce, they say, okay, my life's pretty terrible because of how much work I have to do. And he's like, okay, yeah, why don't you go rest, glad you could make it. And Hero signs off. So Momonga is there, he's like, couldn't stick around, but he knows he feels bad for the guy. He's like, all right, fine. So he's just like, I'm going to just take one last lap around, check everything out. And he's going around. He decides, hey, so one of the big things about this game is that if you can design it, you can put it in the game. Because I had like a creation package you could buy where you could design things yourself. You put things called data crystals in them to do things. And the more data something was fed, the more things it could do, the must make it worth more. Things that were really valuable had a lot of data in them, thus making them do even higher level powers or more complicated things. But there were still limits because that's how the game worked. Like, you couldn't make certain items do certain things that they weren't allowed to. And one of the things that you've probably seen in a lot of the artwork is the staff that he carries. So that is the staff of Ainz Ooal Gown, which is pretty much, think of a symbol, but also it is the ultimate weapon of the guild. It is there. This represents the guild, so it's the staff, and it's not completely unique. So there are also things called world items to talk about, but this staff is the staff of Ainz Ooal Gown. It's the golden scepter that he's always seen in pictures holding. Okay. And it's a guild weapon, so he's like, okay, I've never used this because if you lose it, that's pretty much the end of your guild. It's what represents your guild, and having someone take it is very bad. And because it was made by the guild as a whole, he never felt like he could use it because, like, oh, it's ours, so I don't want to monopolize it as the guild master. So he just kind of left it there for safekeeping. So it's like, it's the end. I'm just going to take it and just check it out because I always wanted to, and why not? Yeah. So he's walking around. He meets some NPCs because there's a whole, and they go into this in a lot of depth in this one and later ones, about the construction of the guild. What it actually is a tomb called the Great Tomb of Nazarick, which they took over, and then once you take it over, your guild can expand it and make it their base. So thus, the Ainz Ooal Gown guild owns the Great Tomb of Nazarick. Yep. So he's going around checking out everything before the server shut down. He's like, okay, we got 10 minutes. He's just kind of wandering around, checking out things, like saying goodbye to stuff. And then he gets to the throne room. He's like, okay. He brought some NPCs with him. So one thing to note is that Volume 1 is very much we're going to introduce you to everything, but not everything. So there's a lot of explanation of how all this stuff works. Right. And it can be a lot if you're not really into it. Like, it explains how the guild is built, who all the NPCs are. It goes into a lot of detail about this. So the stakes of Volume 1 are very, very low. Okay. Because there's so much introduction to everything, which is not done in the later books. Okay. So you have to read them in somewhat of an order or you'll be very confused. Because it just glosses over this stuff in the future. Yeah. I feel like with Japanese manga and light novels in general, like, you can't really jump out of order. Yeah. I know that there are people who do just, like, pick up a book halfway through and just start reading it. It's like, okay, I don't know how you could do that, but sure. Yeah. But this one don't. Got it. Okay. So in the future ones, it gives, like, a very abbreviated, like, who this character is. But in this one, it explains them a lot more in detail. But you'll be very confused if you skip this one because it goes into how all this stuff works. As he's going around, he enters this room. It's like, okay, there's, like, 10 minutes left or 5 minutes left. He's like, okay, all right. He's looking around, and then there's NPCs he brought with him just to kind of, hey, come with me, just because. And there's a person standing next to him named Albedo. She is the head of the head of the NPCs. She's the head of the Floor Guardians. Yep. So she is the one you see in the white dress with the angel wings. She is supposed to be, I think, a succubus. She is beauty incarnate, is how they've designed her. So, just so you know, all of the NPCs were designed by various players in the guild. Because you had artists who were in the guild, like professional artists, professional writers, just people who were really into all this, and, like, they wrote huge backstories for all the different characters. So he opens up Albedo's backstory, because, like... Albedo's backstory. It's a real word, so yeah it's Albedo. Yeah, so he opens her backstory, and it's humongous. It's like, why would you write all of this? It's just, so he's just he's skipping most of it. It's like, just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Why did you write all this? And he gets to the bottom, and then it says, and she's a bitch. Yep. And that's how it ends. It's like, why would you do all this? And then write that at the end. So it's like, well, the servers are in a minute. So he's like, I'm going to change it. So he deletes the last line and writes, and she's in love with Mamunga. Yep. And changes it. And he's like, okay. And he's like, haha, this is so silly. He's all embarrassed about doing it. And it's like, oh, okay, whatever. It's like, because that's one of the powers. Shutting down in 5 minutes. Yeah. It's like, yeah, whatever. So he's just sitting there. He's like, 15 seconds. He's like, he's closing his eyes. He's waiting for the big log out. And it's like, he turns off the global chat. And it's like, because there's like fireworks. And he just wants to enjoy the last few moments of the game because he has been so into this, and he just is incredibly sad that it's closing. So he's sitting there, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then nothing. Wait a minute. What's going on? So he opens his eyes and it's like, there's still people here. And then someone says something, which was not a thing NPCs could really do before. And he's like, what? And then the whole stuff happens. He's trying to figure out, okay, am I in Yggdrasil 2? Because that was rumored. And it's like, they just switched over. Am I having some kind of stroke? Am I... What is happening? And then, okay, they're actually reacting to me. So one of the things is the NPCs were very static. Like, you could design them to look cool and say very certain key phrases, but that was it. They didn't emote. And he's like, hello? And then they start talking and actually looking at him and saying things, and their mouths are moving. And it's like, and then he holds up his hand to his face, and like his mouth is moving, and that wasn't a thing before. It's like, what is happening? And he starts freaking out. So there's all kinds of characters that get introduced. So Sebas Tien is the head butler, and he sends Sebas, because he's one of the NPCs he brought with him. It's like, hey, Sebas, come closer. And he's like, okay, and stop there. He's like, okay. He's like, that's not something you could do before. You couldn't just give them general information. It's like, okay, Sebas, I need you to go outside and tell us what's going on. So he's like, okay. He goes outside. And then he turns over to Albedo. He's like, I need to test some things. Can you hold out your hand? And he's like, he touches her hand. And it's like, there's a pulse. This is actually a living person. And he's like, he's looking at his hands like, I have skeleton hands. And they're not even anatomically correct. So he's like, okay, that's weird. And then just because it's a light novel, it's like, he asked her to do, and so she's very concerned about what's going on with him. It's like, okay, are you okay? And he's like, I need to ask you a few questions. So he's trying to understand what's going on, like, what does she know, and things like that. It's like, he asks her if he could, just because it's a light novel, can I touch your chest? And he does. And he's like, this wasn't a thing you could do before, because there were all kind of rules about sexual games in these kind of systems. It's like, they're very taboo at this time.
Yeah.
So it's like, that was definitely not a thing. And he would have been banned if he had done that in the real game. And apparently if that happens, you get your name plastered and you get expelled from all the games. So it's like, this is not right. So he says, okay, I need to talk to everyone. We need to figure out what's going on. So long story short, they go around trying to figure out what's going on, and they go to meet all the different floor guardians. So there are 10 floors of the Great Tomb of Nazarick. Some of them are headed by certain NPCs, some are not. Let me back up. So in the first volume, there are a number of main characters. The ones that are important are the Floor Guardians. So you got Albedo, who is the head of the Floor Guardians. You have Sebas, who is the head of the Butlers and the Pleiades. So the Pleiades are talked about, but not introduced in this volume. They are, think of battle maids. So there's 6 of them. There's also tons of other maids, but they're just maids. So he is in charge of all of them and the head butler to Mamunga, to the whole guild itself.
Ainz Ooal Gown.
Yep. And then, so the first 3 floors are headed by Shaltir Bloodfallen, who is a necrophilia vampire.
Okay.
She is introduced, but her main kind of, you learn somewhat about all the characters, but she really comes up in the later volumes just because of how the story goes. So there's Gargantua, who's head of level 4. He is talked about, but you don't actually meet him. There's Cocytus, who is in charge of level 5. And each of these floors have different themes. Like Cocytus covers level 5, which I believe is the ice prison. So Cocytus is pretty much a giant bug, ice scorpion, master of arms kind of person. Then there's Ora Bellafiora and Mare Bellofiora. They are twins who are dark elves who are like 10, and they look 10. They're not actually 10 because they're dark elves. They cover level 6. So the guild members who designed them, they're male and female, but they dress opposite.
Okay.
So if you see them, you might be confused about who is who. But so one's a beast tamer and one's a kind of magic user / not quite druid, but that kind of idea. Sure. Then there's Demiurge, who is a Demon, you see him. He's the one who's always dressed in a suit. He covers level 7. Then there's Victim. He covers level 8. However, Victim is only hinted at in this first volume. He is not discussed. He shows up later in other volumes. He is very strange. And then level 8 is also very restricted. So there's very little information, even in the later books, about what's on level 8. And then 9 and 10 are... 9 is rooms for all of the different guild users, all the different guild members live on level 9, I believe. Level 10 is like the throne room. And then there's a treasury and some other stuff.
Okay.
But it's 10 floors. They were actually invaded at one time by 1,500 players. And I believe they made it down to level 6? No, 7.
Oh, gee.
Yes. It's 7. They made it down to level 7 or 8 before they were all killed.
Okay.
Yeah. So Ainz Ooal Gown was a very powerful guild. They were ranked 11th at their heyday in the world. And even by the end, by the time the server shut down, they were ranked 29.
Wow.
After most of the players didn't do anything, just because they were still so powerful.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so those are the big main characters that are introduced for Ainz Ooal Gown, the Floor Guardians. Those are the main characters of Volume 1, and for the most part going forward. There's a few other characters that get introduced that are part of Ainz Ooal Gown who are important, but the Floor Guardians are the main ones. And then the book goes into, okay, who's underneath the Floor Guardians and things like that, and it kind of explains all that.
Right.
Then there are other main characters that are not part of that. So as Ainz is figuring out what's going on, they actually figure out that they are no longer in Yggdrasil. Because they go outside and it's like, okay, this is not where the tomb was before. We are in a completely different land. There's...
Huh.
Why
I wonder
are
if
we
someone
here?
would use that to trick me and score extra points in some sort of isekai guessing game.
Yeah. So he is a human who was playing a game and in the game was transported to another planet.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Different from the game.
Which is different from the game.
Different from the game.
Very important.
Which could be very important if someone was giving you 20 questions to guess an isekai. I don't know why I brought that up, but I feel like it's important to mention.
It could be important. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they are transported. They have no idea where they are. We have no idea if there's threats. So they're doing all these precautions to try to prevent someone from attacking. But it's like, we don't know what's going on. We could get attacked at any second. We don't even know if there's strong people out here. So it spends a lot of time explaining, okay, how are we going to protect ourselves and things like that. So days are going by as this is going on. And as this is happening, you hear a lot of Mamunga. It's like, okay, what's going on? I am not prepared for any of this. There's a lot of internal monologue of like, everyone here worships me, and I'm just a salaryman who wasn't even a very good salaryman. It's like, I have no idea what's going on because everyone thinks of him as the god, a supreme being, because the supreme beings created all of the people. It's like, you are our deity. We worship you. Whatever you say is good. You want that person dead? They are already dead then. So it's like they do anything he says, but they all have their own backstories, so they're all unique people.
Yeah.
And they all get along with each other differently. So there's a lot of going back and forth. Like Shoutier and Albedo don't like each other because they're competing over Mamunga for his affection. And then Demiurge is kind of like a super intelligent kind of, okay, this is all kind of beneath me, but I'm still loyal. Like everyone is loyal to a T to the guild and Mamunga.
Right.
And one of the reasons is because he's the only one who stayed. Everyone else had gone, but he was always the one who kept coming back. So there's a lot of that, like, we're happy that you're still with us. And there's a lot of them. There's a small discussion about, okay, what do we do if he ever decides to leave? It's like, okay. And it kind of doesn't really say what they're going to do, but it's like, it'd be nice to make sure that doesn't happen. Or maybe we could have an heir, and there's a funny conversation about that. So all of the characters are very unique. They work well with each other. They all have very different personalities. Mm-hmm. And the twins especially are very different personalities. Mare is very much the extremely shy, nervous person, and Aura is the very much get in your face. This is what we're doing. Very go forward, ask questions later kind of person. So they're figuring out, they're disguising the tomb because it's out in the middle of this giant plain. It's like, okay, And then there's a whole nother story going on, kind of intermixed into what's going on with Momonga. So it's like, okay, the guild and the tomb are doing one thing, and then you see another scene of a village being attacked.
Okay.
And it's a very medieval... Throughout the story, there's very much set kind of cultures. The one that this story, Overlord, starts in is very much on the more European medieval side. So you see a more European medieval village being attacked by knights. They are killing people. They are going into houses, and it's like, okay, we're killing most of them, but leaving some behind. You learn later that they're searching for someone and trying to draw them out.
Okay.
And as this is going on, there are 3 characters that aren't part of Ainz Ooal Gown who you want to remember going forward because they come up in later books. There's a bunch of other minor characters in this book who are important, but the 3 characters are Enri and Nimu, who are sisters, and they were in the village when they were getting attacked, and Momonga saves them. And then there is Gaziv Stronov. He is... Think of him as the champion knight of the country that they are currently in, which is called the Riestes Kingdom.
Okay.
So, the bigger picture. So you have the Great Tomb of Nosric is now sitting in a giant field in the middle of absolute nowhere.
Yep.
In the Riestes Kingdom. There's also 2 other kingdoms mentioned in the first book. There is the Baharuth Empire and the Slain Theocracy. None of them get along with each other. The Baharuth Empire is a much bigger country and much more powerful, and they occasionally will have skirmishes with the Riestes Kingdom kind of every year, just kind of, hey, we're going to put our 2 armies together, smash them together, and then call it a day. And then there's the Slain Theocracy, who is very much on the idea of we are super religious. It's not... So one of the things that Momonga notices is that a lot of things from Yggdrasil have the same names in this world, but this world doesn't have the myths or legends that you would need for them, because there's angels, but there's no Christianity. There's demons, but there's no myths about demons. So there's Norse names, but there's no Norse in this world.
These things just exist.
Yes.
Rather than, people believe this, and so these things are those beliefs. Gotcha.
But like spells and things like that have the exact same names as Yggdrasil, the game. So you have items that are, this is from a video game. Why is it here? And it's like, okay, so something's going on. And many books from now, you have a vague idea, but you still don't know why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, turns out that the Slain Theocracy sent over a bunch of hitmen to take out Gaziv Stronov, who is the champion, kind of big hero person of the Riestes Kingdom. Mm-hmm. So to do that, they kind of destroy villages to draw him out and do some political shenanigans to make him not have his full gear.
Right.
So like, okay, we're going to weaken him. And then Ainz meets them, saves Gaziv, defeats the Slain Theocracy hitmen.
Yep.
Finds out that everyone he's met so far is stupid weak compared to him. And everyone on his Ainz Ooal Gown guild, anything. These people are like, I could squish you like a bug.
Yeah.
Everyone is weaker than they could possibly imagine, but they go in thinking, I have no idea what's out here. I'm going to go in dressed to the nines and no one better get in my way.
Be ready for everything.
He's like, this is the best you can do? You could just hit me all day with this and it won't hurt me. Because in the original game, it's like, you die, okay, you get a penalty, but it's not that big of a deal. It's like, I don't even know, can we die here? What happens when I die? I'm not going to find out, so I'm just going to obliterate anything as hard as I can, and I'll figure it out later. So they just annihilate anyone who steps in their way, but they're still really cautious because they don't know if there are strong people waiting.
Right.
And there's hints that that's going on. So that's pretty much where the story ends. Like, they save the village, they save Gaziv. They're trying to make, not friends, but they're trying to understand where they are because they have no idea. We know we're in this country. We know that there's a village that now thinks that we saved them. And we have all the floor guardians who are all not evil, but all kind of twisted demon people who think of humans as insects because they're so weak. And one thing that comes up a lot is that because Momonga is human and has a human history, human personality, and all of his floor guardians are demons and all kinds of other monsters, they have very different morals.
Right.
That, depending on what you say, can be taken completely out of context. So he says things. I don't want to spoil it because it's kind of important of how it's said, but it turns out that the way it's taken, he thinks it's kind of a joke, but it comes out that, oh, we want to take over the planet. Sounds like a plan. I will go out and burn this planet to the ground, and now it's ours. So it's like, okay, that's not what he meant, but okay. And it's important to note because he is now a skeleton, Momonga. So he's like, okay, I'm a skeleton. I have no idea how this works because I can talk, but I don't have organs.
Right.
It doesn't really come up this often in this one, but he tries to eat stuff and it just kind of splashes all over him at one point. But he's like, okay, but because he's a skeleton, his emotions are kept in check. So if he ever like spikes with fear or spikes with any kind of strong emotion, it is automatically suppressed back to normal levels. So if he feels strongly about something, he gets reset almost. He still has all the same emotions, but he can't have them too strongly because he is a Overlord Lich kind of person.
Yeah.
And this book goes into how all of the spells and leveling and things like that work. And it's explained in multiple books from now because there's all kinds of things about what you can do.
Okay.
How characters are made and how strong everyone is. So Momonga is a level 100 character, which was the max you could do. But he is a unique Overlord class and a grotesque, which gives him bonuses to certain things because you take a penalty because you don't look like a real person. And then all the floor guardians are all level 100 and they are all unique and grotesque, and that is the idea of Ainz Ooal Gown. They wanted to make a evil guild, in quotes, so they were very much not a well-liked guild because they did evil things, which is mostly just player killing, so they were a big PK kind of group. But the thing about it is there are hints, and he is trying to see if anyone out there from the game has been transported here as well. Because, like, okay, what if one of my guild members was signed in somewhere else, and they just weren't at the guild at the time?
Right.
Are they here? Are other players here? I have no idea. Are they going to like that I'm here? Maybe they hate my guild. But he's like, I can't message anyone, I can't contact anyone, I can't contact the people who are running the game. So I am just going to try to get the name of Ainz Ooal Gown out there. And the way he thinks about how to do this is that he changes his name from Momonga, which was his player character, to Ainz Ooal Gown. So from then on, from this book, he is called Ainz Ooal Gown is his full name. He introduces himself, and all of the NPCs call him Ainz as his, hey, this is my casual name. So while Momonga is mentioned going forward, it's very much he is Ainz Ooal Gown. And it's the Great Tomb of Nazarick is mine. But I'm trying to find other players.
Gotcha.
So, the light novel is very good at telling the story. The manga is very well crafted, but it leaves out a lot of the details.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it condenses a whole light novel into 4 chapters. However, what it does do really well is that it shows a skeleton's face when he gets flustered. So you can really see his changing emotions as he draws, like, the skeleton being embarrassed or, like, saying something awkward. It's like, he just does these strange faces, and it's really funny. And the art is really good, and it gets all of the main points. There's a lot of him having internal monologues with himself and things like that that's kind of glossed over in the manga version. That's important to understand who these characters are in the light novel. But the other thing that the manga does, that the light novel does, it actually adds an extra small short story at the end of each one, I believe, of each volume.
Okay.
It's just a little extra. It's like a couple pages. And it's just, one of the first volume is just Albedo, Aura, and Shoutier having a conversation about clothing and what will catch Ainz's eye. And Albedo and Shoutier are very serious, and Aura is like, why am I even here? I don't want to talk about any of this. You're both being stupid. And it's hilarious because they're people, but they are not human. They talk about skills and things like that because they're NPCs, but they are... Shoutier's a vampire who doesn't get older, and her shape and size is something that is brought up a lot because she can't grow. And Aura is pretty much looks like a 10-year-old, but she is a dark elf who is actually getting older. She'll just get older incredibly slow. And Albedo is a succubus, but even later on, it's not really hinted at of who she really is, because a lot of them have alternate forms they can turn into. Some of them have been shown, most of them have not been. Cocytus, Aura, and Mare are who they are, but like Sebis is supposed to be the most powerful of all of them in a one-on-one fight, and he is half dragon, I think, and you haven't seen that yet. And Demiurge is half demon, or is a demon who can turn into a real demon. And I think Gargantua is still not really called out in any of the books so far. Victim is shown and is odd. And then there's another one who guards the treasury who shows up a little later and is very odd. But all of them were created by the different members. And as he's introducing them, he talks about who made them and kind of gives a little hint at the creator's personality that went into making their personalities. Like, yeah, I can see that poking through. Or it's like, I have no idea why they designed you like this. It's weird. I have no idea. They are just weird people, and this is how they decide to dress you. I'm sorry, I can't help you. So the first volume is really good at introducing what happened and what's going on.
Okay.
To explain how this works. But the story, if you just look at the main story points, it's very light on stakes and what happens. It's pretty much show up, save village, that's it.
Show up, save village, profit.
Exactly, yeah. This feels very much like a setup to a much bigger story, which it is.
Yeah.
But you have to go in knowing that.
Okay.
So I've talked a lot. Do you have any questions?
Not really.
Okay.
To sort of give from what I know, I have this novel. I never finished it. I have in the past read the beginning pretty much up until immediately before he arrives in the new world. So the whole process of him saying goodbye and everyone being there and then leaving, and then he's there at the end, and the changes and things that he does. Well, the game's ending anyway. Let me break out the staff. Let me do all this. That I all recognize. And I think I saw, from as far as I read, like the beginning of the village being attacked.
Yep. Yeah, because that's sprinkled throughout the story about the village. That's not just first half is guild, second half is village. It's intermixed, so it's not just completely separated. So it at least breaks up some of that.
How does Gazef and his people react to Momonga appearing and Ainz Ooal Gown appearing in the middle of this place?
Okay.
And just absolutely curb stomping anyone who shows up in front of them.
So he shows up in the village to save everyone because he's trying to figure out, okay, there has to be someone alive out here. So let me back up a little. So Momonga has sunk so much money into this game. He is also an extreme hoarder.
Right.
So he has saved anything and everything he's ever gotten in this game. So he just has stuff of all kinds of different quality and variety because he's a collector. He doesn't want to give up anything if it's going to be useful later. So
right.
They have this mirror, kind of like a looking glass, where they can kind of look around. It had limited use in Yggdrasil because of game reasons, but here it's like, okay, I'm just going to look around to see if I can find anything nearby. So he finds the village. It's like, okay, we're going to go check it out. They're being attacked. Let's go see what's going on. So he goes to the village. He stops these people from attacking. And one of the things that comes up a lot is some of his guild members had a real influence on who he is. And one of the ones that had the most influence is the one. So the character's name is called Touch Me.
Yep.
Yep. Just because. So the character Touch Me is at the time of the game, was one of the best players in the game against other characters. So, like, tournament-wise, he is one of the best players. And one day he saves Momonga because, being grotesques, they looked like monsters, so people would just go out and kill them for fun. So he saves Momonga one day, and he is one of the founders of the guild. So Touch Me has always given him advice of, if you see someone in trouble, you should help them. And there's a lot of that happens in most of the books where he's remembering his guild members, his friends, and they influence kind of like the decision he's going to make if he's trying to think of something. It's like, and in this situation, Touch Me is like, you need to help them. So it's like, okay.
Right.
So he goes, helps the village, saves them, gets rid of all of the fake knights who were attacking, who was actually the slaying theocracy. So he's sitting there protecting the village. He puts on a disguise because he's just a skeleton in this big, huge robes, and his disguise is just a mask. So, and he just chalks up, like, I'm a crazy caster. I'm a crazy magician who's been studying it on a trip. So it's like, okay, yeah, casters are weird. So sure. So he kind of strikes it up with the village. He's trying to get information out of them. It's like, okay, since you can't pay me for saving you as much as I think it's worth, you can just give me information. It's like, and we'll figure out payments later. So as he's talking to the village and making sure they're okay, Gaziv was trying to hunt down these people who were attacking the villages because, like, he's with the king, so the king sent him out. It's like, okay, someone's attacking the villages, go figure it out and stop them. So he comes out, he arrives at the village Momonga is in, or Ainz now.
Yeah.
And he's like, who are you? And they're watching each other. It's like, and it's like, I am the one who came in and saved this village. And Gaziv's like, awesome, thank you. Thank you for saving the village. And so they talk for a while, and it turns out that that was a trap. So at this time, the bad guy who was running this slain theocracy hit squad reveals that we were waiting for Gaziv to come out. We have him. Gaziv is like, Ainz, can you help us? And he's like, no. You have to pay me, or I'm not doing it. And you can't pay enough, so I'm not doing it. And you can't make me, because if you did, I would crush you like a bug. Fair enough. So it's like, okay, not in those words, but that's the idea.
Right.
So it's like, okay. But Ainz is like, I will guard the village and make sure no one touches them. It's like, perfect. That's all I wanted. So Gaz was like, all right, we're going to go stop these people and thank you for protecting. So they had like a mutual understanding. It's like, you're strong. He realizes that Gaziv, while it's not as strong as him, is still the strongest person around. So it's like, okay, kind of like a mutual, he knows that Gaziv is a powerful person, a strong will. He is the leader of the Imperial, like the knights of this kingdom. So he has respect for him.
Okay.
Yeah. And by the end, the kind of mutual friends is a little too strong, but they have mutual respect for each other. And they don't know that he's a skeleton because he hides it. But he's like, okay, casters are odd people, so whatever. If you ever get to the capital, come look me up, and I'll show you around, things like that. So they're friends-ish, quite good acquaintances now.
Okay.
But Gaziv plays a big part going forward, and Enri and Nemu have a bigger part going forward. They're a very small part in this one, but they are key players in later ones.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know if they say how long, because in later books they say, okay, like it's been a number of months since stuff happened, or like a year has gone by. I think this takes place over a couple weeks.
That would make sense.
Yeah. But as the books go on, it's like more time keeps passing. Like, it's not like the elf one where it's like, okay, 20 years have gone by. No, this is like, okay, a year or a couple months has happened since something else has happened. It's not huge chunks of time get skipped.
Gotcha. Neat.
Yeah, it's cool. It's interesting. It gets more complex as it goes. You learn more about the characters. You learn more about the world. Mm-hmm. Some of the stories are, I think, it's not more interesting, but more... There's ones that are very much fighting. There's ones that are very political. There are ones that are very much, we're just going on some crazy adventure. And some of the Floor Guardians are there. Some of them are doing other things. A lot of them are mentioned, but not always. Like Sebas goes on his own crazy adventure in some of the books, and Kaitis has his own things. Like they're all have their own projects that they're slowly building towards in the later books.
Right.
The first book is very much who are all these crazy characters and what do they do and why do they worship Momonga so much? And that's kind of where it's left off. It's like, we think he is the god who created everything and everyone should bow down to him. And if you don't, we will crush you like an ant. They're very much, if you insult anything about Ainz Ooal Gown, we will turn you to dust. Even each other, if they feel that one is not doing enough to support Ainz Ooal Gown, they will call each other out.
Okay. Interesting.
But it's cool. It's a great story.
Yeah, no.
It gets
I've
better.
always heard good things about it.
It's very much one of the first, I don't know if it's the first, but it's definitely one of the most popular that I can think of. There's a new movie coming out this year. I think it's already come out in theaters. That is one of the two-parter stories. That one's pretty brutal. There's some crazy stuff that happens in that one. Because I think there's 4 seasons, a movie, and I think after that there's a couple more books before it kind of catches up where it is now. They're all good. Yeah, so definitely check it out. If you haven't, it's a good read. Just know that the first one is very much introduction.
Yeah. Good, but introduction.
Yes.
You would say.
Yep.
Okay.
And they do get crazier, better, and it just gets more fun of them trying to run a kingdom. And yeah, so there's all kinds of things going on. It's like, how does a person who worked in sales run a guild where everyone thinks they're a god? And he has no idea. But anything he says is considered, of course, you're thinking 20 steps ahead of us. Why didn't I think of that? There's a lot of times he's like, well, there's a lot of him saying things where, what do you think I'm trying to do? It's like, oh, that's why. I get you now. It's like, and he's like, I had not thought of that. It's like, we're gonna go with that though. But he puts on the air of course, that is exactly what I was thinking. You are a very intelligent person. That's why you're in charge. It's like, okay, yeah. Fake it till you make it. Yeah.
Well, with that, we'd like to thank everyone very much for listening to another episode of the Mudai Manga and Book Club podcast. As always, besides where you're listening now, you can also find us on Blue Sky at Mudai Manga Book Club, on YouTube at Mudai Manga Book Club, on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast places at Mudai Manga and Book Club. And you can reach us via email at mudaimangabookclub@gmail.com. Wherever you are, if you want to leave us likes, comments, shares, ratings, anything to give us feedback or let you know that you're enjoying the show, we would very much appreciate it. Any sort of questions, comments, feel free to leave in those or email us directly, as I said before, at Mudai Manga Book Club podcast email. We would love to hear from you all. We'd love any suggestions, feedback, anything you guys want to let us know. And if you have anything like that, feel free to reach out. But with that, we reached the end of the episode. Mm-hmm. Louie, do you have something to additionally recommend for our recommendationing?
Yeah, so one thing I actually finished watching the other day is a show called Invincible. I don't know if you've heard of this.
Yes, I have.
If not, you've probably seen memes of it or things like that.
I've seen tons of memes of it as well. Yes.
It is, so for anyone who doesn't know, it is a superhero story. I think it ended in 2016. It is a Western-style superhero story about a character called Invincible. Invincible is relative. So it's very... So there's a comic version. There's also an animated TV show on Amazon Prime. It is... Think of superheroes from DC, Marvel, and then turn it up to where everything is more like reality. So if people break legs, people fight giant monsters and blow them up, it's just a visceral kind of story, and everyone just explodes buckets of blood for some reason. It's like, there's just blood everywhere. But, so it's a very much a visceral kind of story. It's interesting. It's very much about a character who is super strong, not invulnerable. So he is beaten to pieces a lot, but still wins in the end.
Right.
And eventually heals and becomes back to normal. And it's about him dealing with other superpowers, other characters, other alien races, and his own family, and all of that. So it's cool. It's very violent. And it also shows, okay, what happens to people in these cities when superheroes just go nuts on each other? And yeah, it's definitely not a if you're squeamish about blood kind of story. Even the cartoon, the animated show, is blood everywhere kind of thing. It is, yeah. It's probably one of the bloodiest things I've ever seen. There's just blood everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I was not expecting.
Oh, yeah.
I knew it was violent, and I had heard of it, and the way it had been described to me is more of like, imagine a superhero world, but actually imagine what a superhero world would be like.
Yeah.
How those things would interact with the real world. And that is more of where this series goes than something like, oh, there's just superheroes.
So in the last scene, not the last scene, in the last season, there's a scene where two powerful superheroes are fighting, and they are fighting in a city, and they punch each other, and it creates a concussive explosion that blows out buildings and just collapses on people. And then there's a scene where one grabs the other, it just flies at sonic speeds through a beach, and just everyone explodes.
Oh, jeez.
Because it's like sonic boom next to just regular Joe Schmo. And it's like, okay, yeah, people are just collateral damage everywhere. And, like, people get, like, even superheroes get killed off all the time.
Yeah.
And not in nice ways.
That was the other thing I knew from it. Yeah.
So, but...
Sounds like Watchmen, but...
Yes.
Slightly more lighthearted.
So it's like Watchmen, except if a lot of the characters were as powerful as Superman.
Yeah, that too.
There's a whole race of people who are like Superman, who are pretty much, we rule, we are the strongest that there ever will be. No one can touch us. We tell you what to do, and if you don't, we just destroy your planet. Because one person of our race can do that. Yeah. So there's that. It's a crazy story. So there is a graphic novel version. I believe it's in omnibuses now. And then there's a TV show. They've done 3 seasons. I think there's another one probably coming eventually. But it's good. But you have to go in knowing that there's a lot of violence. A lot of violence.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but it definitely flips the idea of superheroes away from no one gets killed.
Yeah.
Even superheroes aren't safe in this show. What about you? Any recommendation?
Yeah, so mine's not quite a... So this is a little bit more of an oddball one, but this was something that was just accomplished. And you and I, we both play a lot of video games. We both watch a lot of other people playing video games. We both love watching GDQ and things like that. There's this game you might have heard about from the 90s called Doom. Doom 2.
Nope, never heard of it.
You can find it on pretty much every computing system that's ever been created.
Yes.
Officially and or unofficially, depending on the people. It's been made to run in other games. It's been made to run the display on a pregnancy test. It's been run on a computer powered by moldy potatoes. Doom's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
So, one of the other things about Doom is it was so incredibly popular, but also source code and map editing tools and a lot of other things were released for the game when it was coming out and a little bit after that. So, it was not only so popular, but people have had the chance to make their own things. There's tons of maps, there's tons of all of that. So, if you're interested in that, even still to this day, there are people making Doom maps. They're called WADs because it's a WAD file that are doing all sorts of crazy things. There are multiple source ports that you can run on modern computers, and there are incredibly good maps.
Okay.
This one I don't know if I would call a good map
Okay.
in terms of quality of being a good game. But this is if you really love Doom, there is a subset called Slaughter Maps, where there's just thousands of monsters. There's a very famous one, and this is very much in a niche part of the Doom community, but there's a very famous one called Okuplok.
Okay.
Okuplok. It is, I don't know if it's still the largest ever created, but when it was created, it was the largest slaughter map ever created by a long margin, and it wasn't beaten for a long time, if it even has been. It has 23,211 monsters in it.
Wow.
Now, a normal Doom map in the original game had about 75 to 110 on a big map. So this is 23,000.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the biggest maps ever. It's famous not necessarily for being great, although it is supposed to be quite good, but it's just this big, huge map that you have to go through. And ultimately, the reason I'm bringing this up, there's a YouTuber by the name of Coincident, spelled Coincident, basically coincident. It's a real word too, so you can look it up. But he does a bunch of Doom speedrunning and blind levels and things like that, and streaming and all of those things. But one of the things he's been working on is doing minimum segment runs of Okuplok. So he was able to do a 2-segment run of Okuplok where he saved one time and beat the entire map on the easiest difficulty.
Oh, wow.
He did it in a single segment on the easiest difficulty. And as of yesterday, and the reason I'm bringing this up, he released a video where he beat Okuplok on the true settings that Doom players use, which is ultra-violent, the highest difficulty that doesn't respawn monsters, all kills, all secrets, single segment, no saves, no restarts, no deaths.
Wow.
One single playthrough, start to finish, kill everything. It's 6 hours and 5 minutes, and he has released the footage of him doing this. I believe it's over 100 attempts just doing it on this UV Max, and he's been working on this for years. But
wow,
it is a crazy accomplishment doing this huge map. The map starts with you jump down a set of blocks, and then you go up a set of stairs with like 300 imps, the like normal enemies, with 100 mancubus, these huge rocket launcher guys, behind you shooting rockets at you the whole time. And halfway up this hill of stairs, there's a pack of like 20 archviles, these super high-end enemies that will shoot fire blasts at you, that will knock you around and can kill you in about 2 hits. And if you go too far to the edge of the steps you're going up, you'll reveal yourself to a bunch of other enemies that can shoot you from there. That's the first fight, and it's about 300 or 400 enemies.
That's crazy.
It is an insane map full of all kinds of... And the only weapon you get at the beginning is the rocket launcher.
Okay.
So you have a pistol and a rocket launcher. And it's like, okay, I have to go up the stairs. That's literally just a wall of bodies. And all I have is a rocket launcher.
Wow.
Okay. It's a crazy map. And so I just wanted to recommend it because it's an incredible accomplishment that someone was actually able to do this. A bunch of other people who are very, very good at this have also just tried to beat it in like the minimum segments. And it's like, oh my God, I can't do this. So they're all like, this is crazy. Congratulations to him. The other thing though, that like, if you were less interested in that, I have been watching these because there are some insane Doom maps, which I'll probably bring up at another point, but I don't want to mention right now because I have to let you know how to find out about these without spoiling anything. But the other thing that he did that I really like, because I always like the more technical stuff, he had been putting together guides on each fight of like, how do you do this section and take minimum damage, and like, how do you get through it? And he only has like the first 3 fights of I don't know how many, 20-25 minute breakdowns, and there's a bunch of research he does and puts into them. They're also really fascinating. So Coincident, completing Okuplok, all UV Max, all kills, all secrets, single segment, 6 hours and 5 minutes without dying.
That's crazy.
Killing 23,000 monsters. Yeah, that's a thing that exists now, and it's just insane.
Wow.
If you want to see how ridiculous Doom has gotten since it came out, there you go. So that's my recommendation for this week. It's just something cool to go check out. And with that, that'll be the end of the episode. Tune in next week where we will be covering Mashley, of Magic and Muscles, chapters 1 to 15, which is the Eastern Enrollment arc, which is volume 1 and the majority of volume 2. I think like the last chapter 2 is technically not part of it, but
Okay.
it's the first 15 chapters, basically volumes 1 and 2.
Gotcha.
That is what we'll be checking out next week. But until then, have a good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Peace. And my all-time favorite, headshot for the year. You better walk around like Daft Punk. Which I think is going to be my line. Yeah. I'll do it. I'll do it. It's William Shatner speaking. Like that one episode of Futurama at the. I never knew. He does the spoken Eminem with the real Some Shady. Please stand up. Please stand up.
Stand up.
Please stand up. I never knew that you could talk Eminem lyrics. Yeah. All right.
Off to the review.
Segway.
Segway.
Segway. How does it do that? Get back on the ship.